Good morning, everybody. We really want to welcome everybody to this really interesting panel discussions about the future use cases of digital identities. So, thinking about technologies like Bitcoin, this entails that we have, evolving concepts of identities in the new digital era. When we think about what happened in the last couple of years with big tech, all with their big data silos, a lot of leaks. I've just recently read that presumably Facebook was basically letting Netflix peeking into their DMs. We have deepfake. So there is a lot of things happening, and clearly there is a signal that there is a need for digital freedom and a transition towards digital identities and/or on-chain identities. So today we really want to cover what's happening in this space, what to expect in the future, and how to solve those before mentioned issues. My name is David Bakk. I am in the lead of business development and partnerships at the Polimec Foundation. With me, we have Micha Bitterli from Deloitte Switzerland. We have Bill Laboon, who is Director of Education and Governance Initiatives at the Web3 Foundation, and Luca von Wyttenbach, who is a co-founder of the Polimec Foundation. With that being said, I want to open the discussion with Bill from the Web3 Foundation. And Bill, from your perspective, why are digital identities crucial for the blockchain ecosystem nowadays?
Yeah, so I think traditionally we have seen with blockchain that your identity is just a series of numbers or some very large number, and what you have done in the past with that number essentially on chain. There's never been really a good way of connecting a person to an identity in a serious way on an ongoing basis and in a way that's modular and can be private. And so what we've seen is then a lot of problems because of this lack of identity. There are a lot of benefits to this pseudonymity, but also a lot of drawbacks, and it's been difficult. People haven't had the option to have the benefits of some of the benefits we do have in a more Web 2 world. We see this in terms of endless Sybil attacks. We see this in terms of fake people, so not just deep fakes, but there are a lot of Bill Laboons out there on the internet asking people for things that are not me. And so I think having this ability to have a cryptographically verifiable digital identity is going to give us a lot of the benefits we have with Web 2, but still have all the benefits of like a Web 3 experience.
Cool, thank you very much. So, and as mentioned before, we have Micha here from Deloitte. And with Deloitte, the interesting thing is Deloitte has recently, last year, ventured into creating an on-chain digital identity service. So before getting into deeper discussions, can you quickly please explain what is that?
Thank you, David. Yeah, in fact, what we try to do is we bring the old world into the new world, because not everything in the old world was bad. All right. Let me use an example from our partner Kilt, which explains that quite nicely, right? In the past, you had your passport or ID, and you went to a shop, and you showed your ID, and you got a beer, or whatever. You just had to prove that you're above 18. And the passport had multiple things on it. You can prove that it's a right passport. You can compare the picture. That's the same person, right? And it's an authority which has issued it, so I can trust that the person is really 18. Now, in the new world, I have my Google account. And with my Google account, I go everywhere, right? So my Google account is no longer a passport which is with me. It is somewhere with Google, right? And Google knows exactly what I do, which also comes with this beautiful stuff that if I buy something, I get 1 month of merchandising about the stuff I just was buying, right? So that's not really working well. And moreover, if Google decides to cancel my login, I will have a huge problem with a lot of services, right? So what we try to do is to give that back in an electronic way. So we give you a kind of an ID, which is in a wallet, and you decide where you share your information and what information you share, right? It's not that you put all your details into a form. It can be sufficient in case of this shop that it just proves that you're above 18. So you have a wallet. In this wallet, you have information which gets approved by Deloitte. So Deloitte has then like the role of a government issuing an ID, right? And there is information in it which simply says you're above 18. And the shop doesn't need to have more information about you unless you want to ship it and its address and whatever, right? So that's what it is. It's bringing the control of the data back to the user.
That's awesome. And I have a question which is motivated by my, professional career, as I'm coming from a Big Four as well. Thinking about the service that you have basically introduced now, what were kind of, for a professional Big Four audit firm, what were like challenges you had deploying such a credential?
Oh, you don't want to know. Oh, you don't want to know. Yeah, we are a classic Web2 company, right? So now working with Web3 companies is not the easiest thing you can do, right? So one is the basic product. We today, as Deloitte and in my team, and with Tony, which sits over there, hi Tony, we issue today reports for banks. So we do deep background checks on persons with huge reports, right? And for us, it was rather than printing the result into the PDF report, we write it into a wallet. So from a technical perspective, it was not that huge. But as a Big Four, we have a lot of internal processes to ensure reputation of Deloitte, right? And as I said, classic Web2 business. So now we deal with a lot of Web3 companies. Now the question starts, what is the company? Is there a company? We even have potential clients we are talking, it's not even a company. It's a group of people doing something in the blockchain, right? And we need to do a contract. So what is your counterpart in a contract? We have topics like independence. Can we issue a certificate to an audit client of Deloitte? So it was a lot of legal work to put around that to make it happen that a Big Four can actually issue a trusted certificate to the wide public.
Very cool. Thank you very much. So you were just explaining the credential itself, what it is, what it contains of. And with that, I would like to ask a question to Luca, because, okay, there is such a credential in your wallet, but how does that work in practice? Being more specific, how does Polimec utilize Deloitte's KYC credential? And what does it enable for Polimec's or our operations?
Thank you very much, David. So maybe to follow up on the two last points raised, one by Bill and also by Micha. We at Polimec, we enable Web3 fundraising infrastructure. Very simply put, we enable Web3 startups to raise funds directly on chain. Now, why do we need a digital credential, a digital identity? It's very, very essential with where we're going. A lot of people probably know it. The good old farmers, airdrop farmers, liquidity farmers. The most important aspects for every protocol to scale and the Web3 ecosystem to thrive is real user adoption and also adaptability of use cases. The problem is that if I have no clue how many users I have, I cannot focus which feedback I have to adhere to and adapt for the protocol. So I do not know how many users I have. Now for us at Polimec, this is a very critical point because the startups that are raising funds, they need to know their stakeholders. They need to know who their investors are, the right target audience to have the investment to use the application thereafter. So how we use that specifically for our protocol is it enables us a clear path to have end users being able to invest in Web3 startups without disclosing their private information. So any one of you does not have to disclose who they are, but they have to adhere to all the eligibility checks from the project. For example, I would like to raise funds, but I exclude US investors. You don't have to disclose your name, you don't have to send your ID card. Nevertheless, you are in adherence to a full KYC. But the only information you disclose on chain is that you're not from the US. So very simply put, we enable a way where you're in control of your data and you can choose which information you're sharing with whom that enables a path to distinct who's a real human being behind a wallet transaction and in the Web3 format in general.
Thank you very much. Quick follow-up question. We worked with Deloitte, we implemented the solution to use, but thinking about, I think we have a good sense of how this digital identity looks, works, where it can be applied. From your personal perspective, where do you see digital identities to be used more in the future? That's my first question. And how does Polimec itself plan to expand, the utility of this new technology?
I think actually just what we just discussed outside, try just to Google something of when does certain talk start today. And my phone doesn't trust me being a human being, right? I have to do the CAPTCHA checks every time, a little brain check if I'm still there. And it's the little things in life. We cannot go online any day because even our own devices, our hardware devices, do not know if we're real human beings. So the use cases where they can go, in the end, everything we use as of today. Every store you buy something, everywhere you order something where you need your address, every financial market product, every financial market transaction, every interaction in Web 2, in Web 3 that requires normal internet connection, you will need the urge to have a proof simply that you're a human being and that nobody can steal or copy your identity.
Cool, thank you. So now I would like to ask another question to Bill, because we've heard about the solution, but we also know, there is quite some other projects thinking about MetaMask ID, Polygon ID, Coinbase ID. So what do you think, what are the biggest differentiators, and do you think, is there a problem why those solutions could not be used for example, RWAs?
Yeah, so there are a lot of different identity platforms out there. I'd say they fall into sort of like two sections or two groups, right? There's like sort of the traditional like ENS style of just, all right, let's take it on faith of what you say that you are and what you exist. That doesn't have a lot of complexity behind it. There's not much you can do. It's not verified. There's the more like the DID style, the decentralized identity with VCs that some of these verifiable credentials that some of these use. But I think there's two issues with some of the ones that you mentioned. So first is sort of their Boolean nature. There's a lot like Coinbase ID is essentially, all right, is this person verified with Coinbase? You can't do some of the things that were mentioned earlier, just share that you are in fact older than 18. So this means that you're really, it's not granular enough for a lot of use cases out there. Or you have to share all of your information with some of these, and then you're sharing all of your information with everybody out there, which we've seen with some of the hacks you mentioned earlier, that's also a bad idea. So I think specifically with this approach, a big thing is the fact that this modularity of what you can share with, right? I know modularity is a big word in blockchain development now, but also the fact that it is Deloitte offering these things, that it is a place, a company that governments all over the world, people all over the world respect, and they trust the verified credentials there. Anyone can I could have Bill's verification service, and I mean I look trustworthy, right? But probably people won't trust me as much as a Big Four agency. So I think these are the two big issues that differentiate this approach.
Cool, thank you. So I think we've learned now that Deloitte is quite an innovator in this space, but I think what most people would like to know, I mean, there's Polimec as the first use case, but what is there in the pipeline? What are use cases you could be giving us some insights? What to expect? Like, what is coming in the next couple of months?
Okay. First of all, I don't know who looks more trustworthy, you or me. We are not allowed to talk about pipeline. There is still a Big Four, but potentially I can talk a little bit about projects and future, what we could see. Which goes a little bit in what you said, right? Potentially a bit more real and closer on what we look at. I think there will be a move from the digital world back to the physical world, right? Where you could think that you have credentials on a device, the device that you are you. That is what you said, right? The device doesn't know that you are you. It will know that you are you. And that gives you a lot of use cases, right? You can open in doors. You can walk through smart cities and you decide. And that's very important with our credentials, what information you share. If you want to know, if you go to the next shop, that they already propose you whatever goods you are interested or not, I think that will be your decision in the future. And there are other use cases we get very important when we look at fake news, right? Deep fake. Doing things like I sign my picture with my personal ID that this is my picture. A company signing a document that it's actually the document of the company, so that you can identify that this picture is not from you because it doesn't have a signature from yourself. I think that's where it also goes in the future, that also if you have bots and whatever, they need to sign that it's actually them, it's not a human being, so we can start to separate. Yeah, and there is a lot of others. I mean, the obvious ones are investment cases for whatever platforms where you need AML requirements, right? Because we don't only look, we don't only do the identification of persons, we also maintain the certificate. So a certificate from us is always valid for a year, and that's also a problem you have with a lot of other services, right? Is you do the identification, then it's valid for a day, because tomorrow I could marry and change my name, right? So we maintain it, and we also do structured screening in the background, right? What we have seen before with OFAC lists and stuff like that. So that Polimec knows it's not a sanctioned party trying to invest. So we keep the group of people in the investing platform clean. And the good thing is, as the platform knows, in this case Polimec, that all the data is proven and there are sanction checks in the back. They wouldn't even need the information. Just the pure fact that the certificate is there means this is a good person. And that's how we can achieve that we still can only share the information we want and not always everything, while bringing security and comfort into the ecosystem.
Thank you. So I also have another follow-up question, because there might be a little bit of a misconception sometimes. So we are here at Ethereum Zurich, we talk about blockchain, but Billy, so thinking about also the solution, you know, do you see any further use cases where this could be applicable, because this is not purely focused on Web3?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are a lot of traditional, like, Web 2 approaches. Anywhere, where you would want to have an identity, this is going to be useful. So, obviously Polimec with investing, being able to access certain websites that you may be, geo-blocked from. Personally, as very much an on-chain nerd myself, I see a lot, like, I think these Web 2 mechanisms, like, a lot of them are sort of a one-to-one mapping, but I see a lot of cases in Web 3 where we could immediately start using this, right? Think about airdrops, and there's no proof of personhood. There are airdrop farmers all over the place. They're sybiled. If we think about DAOs, or just individual contributors, right? This Munchables attack on Base, right? Base, yeah. Base recently, what happened? There was someone whose identity was essentially a fake identity. Actually, so like a sort of a funny story, I'm in a DAO, Kappa Sigma Mu, which is secured by proof of ink. So I have a tattoo that includes I'm a part of a human blockchain. It links back to the previous person who got a tattoo, and there are 163 of us. And there was, I know, it's awesome, Kappa Sigma Mu, you should join. And if you want to be cool like me. So, but there was an issue like, okay, well, how this is proven is pictures of the tattoo. And there was sort of a little scandal, like someone tried to get a second tattoo on a different part of their body. How do you prove that in a Web3 way, that this is someone different's knee than someone else's arm? Right. So I think, again, it's sort of like a silly example, but I think that's the thing. You can't, we have a lot of these like, direct cases of, I'm using an ID for something now, but in a Web3 world, there are just so many more use cases that it's really hard to think about, just like it's hard to think about, whatever, like, CryptoKitties would have been in 1985.
Awesome. So before wrapping up, and we potentially have time for a question or two, if there are any.
Wait a second, because my big four brain kicked in and said we're not allowed to talk about pipelines. We're not allowed to talk about pipelines. But there is a project we can talk about, yeah, which is KYX, right? It's Know Your Cargo. That's a huge project we are currently working on with different companies like Paramount, Nexiot, Kilt, which is ensuring that a delivery of a shipment, of a package, is safe on the entire way. And more important, that if it goes into a container and is shipped on a global way, that nobody is adding drugs into the container, illicit trading and stuff like that, right? It is about expected time of arrival of goods. It's an entire platform we are currently looking at and plan to build together with our partners.
Exciting, thank you. Any other closing words from Luca or Bill before I'm wrapping up?
I think from my side only, there is a cheaper way than getting your body inked to join a proof of person in the internet. So coming back to the on-chain credentials, I think it's a very natural transition of where we have to move, because everyone that is following all the developments ongoing with AI, I'm sure we have more experts in the room, is that it's a trivial perception that having the best software to filter if something is being faked or not is always behind the newest AI development. So the only path to secure a verifiable version of yourself, or proof of human being, or however we want to call it, if you don't want to ink your body, I think a proper way would be that you own your data and you have a verifiable credential where you can choose to share which fields you want to disclose with your counterparty at any given point in time.
Yeah, just to conclude, I do think that would be easier than getting yourself inked, yes.
Cool, thank you. So thank you everybody for being here. I think at the end of the day, digital identities or on-chain credentials are here. If you want to have a look, I think the solution Deloitte is offering is unique. It's super nice. It is, you know, they have a really big first mover advantage. If you want to have a closer look at it, I think it's www.kyc-credentials.com. For anybody, all of the builders here in the room, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about implementation, how it works, if you need any kind of documentation. We're happy to support wherever we can. And with that being said, yeah, was great. Thank you for being here. I think the future is bright when it comes to this topic of digital identities. We're super excited. If you want to also learn more about it, you're happily invited. We have a meetup once per month in Zug in collaboration with the Web3 Foundation, and Deloitte is also there from time to time. So this is a great place to exchange also on those topics like digital identities. Thank you for listening, and if any questions, yeah, feel free.
Are there any questions? We still have a few minutes over there. Oh, sorry.
Thank you for the insightful conversation. I just have a question. You were talking about from the private sector point of view of the digital identity. And my question is, okay, I choose your solution, and he chooses the solution of the other, and so on. Is there an interoperability that you will grant? I mean, you will guarantee that there will be an interoperability among all of these solutions? Or could we think about national solutions, like every country will decide, okay, let's get into digital identity, and we won't have these biometric passports anymore. We will have something new, a digital identity, national digital identity that we will use within the cyberspace.
Sure. I mean, there can be only one solution. No, I'm kidding. You know, there are already e-identities, and they have one big problem. They're national. Because we with our service, we have a lot of people, or we have some people coming with e-identities, which we will be more than happy to accept, but you can only check them if you're local. So only local companies are allowed to check the validity of a Nigerian e-identity, right? The good thing is, if you have a solution like the Deloitte one, this is globally available, right? So what we would like also to do is to get the e-identity to save a lot of work by proving the data and whatever, and reducing the cost for the credentials, because we don't need to do all these checks and do a global certificate on the top, right? I think that's also where it goes a little bit, because these in Europe, we now do one identity which goes over the entire European Union. I think that's already an improve. They, by the way, go all to the Web3 standard. So they're all based on the same standards as we are. And the rest is then a question of a validator, right? Because the validator needs to to judge what are the issuing companies which he trusts. Because if Luca just says, yeah, it's Micha, and he puts that onto a blockchain, I'm not sure if Polimec would accept that, right? So you will have some trusted parties that will issue credentials, yeah, and those will be trusted. And the rest you can do. Technically, you can generate the credential on the Kilt blockchain whenever you want. But the problem is, the question is always, is the service accepting the credential, accepting the fact that somebody else was approving it? That is the main question at the end. This is this trust part which comes into it. Yeah, but I think there will be more than one solution, sadly. But yeah, that's how world is, right?
We have time for one more question. Is there one more question?
Is the solution platform agnostic, or can you describe a little bit how it is multi-chain, multi-platform?
I mean, at the end, what it is a credential. The data is in your wallet, and the credential is hashed. The hash is written to the Kilt blockchain, together with some metadata. Who is the attester of the information? Is the certificate valid? And stuff like this, right? And then you get a little validator software you can put on a website wherever you want, which reads out the certificate from the wallet upon approval from the user. Right, so you need to prove that you actually reshare the data. When you get the data, you prove against the Kilt blockchain that the data which was just shared is correct, and it's approved and still valid. And then you do whatever you want with the data. So it's independent. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to our panelists, Bill, Micha, David, and Luca. Thank you also to the audience. Please don't leave yet. At 12:05 we will continue with the session presented by Antoine Spanberg, native account abstraction use cases. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.